Hey there. Tonight we begin not in shining armour, not on the battlefield, not as some storied knight sung of in taverns, but at the beginning, a much smaller, colder, hungrier beginning. You're not yet a knight, you're not even a squire. You're a page, a child in a borrowed tunic, far from home, far from mother's voice, standing in a draughty stone hallway trying not to shiver. If these small grey beginnings help you drift into sleep, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if it brings you rest. And let me know in the comments where and when you're listening tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe pull a blanket close, and let's begin. You wake in the dark because the steward said you must. You do not yet know the hours of this place, only that when the first bell sounds, when the servants rise and the hearth smoke begins to seep through the cracks of the old dormitory, you must be standing, dressed, and ready. Ready for what? You aren't quite certain. You're new here. Only yesterday your father left you in the cold stone entry hall, one hand firm on your shoulder, the other pressing a crumpled letter of introduction into the steward's long fingers. Then he was gone, his cloak disappearing beyond the portcullis, his horse's hooves fading down the frosted path. You're alone now, in a world of stone and rules and faces you do not know. The bed they gave you is a narrow wooden frame beneath the rafters, its straw mattress lumpy, the woolen blanket thin and scratchy. The rushes on the floor smell of old damp. The small slit of a window admits no light, only the breath of cold air. You lie there, eyes open to the darkness, heart pounding, limbs stiff with unfamiliar ache. You did not sleep well. No one does their first night here. The sounds of the place are strange. The wind moaning through cracks in the tower, rats scuttling in the beams, distant voices too muffled to understand. The first bell tolls, low, cracked, somewhere far below. It is not loud, but it fills the bones. You scramble upright, breath clouding in the chill air. The tunic they gave you, coarse linen, far too large, goes on first, sleeves hanging past your hands. You pull the belt tight, knotting it twice to keep it from sagging. Woolen hose come next. One leg has a hole near the knee. You tug them up anyway, teeth clenched against the cold. Soft shoes, worn thin, barely protect against the frozen floor. The cloak is too short, the clasp missing. You knot it awkwardly at the shoulder. The other boys are already rising, pale faces, silent movements. No one speaks, no one smiles. They know what waits. You descend the narrow stairs in a shivering line. The stone beneath your feet is slick with condensation. The great hall yawns before you, high-roofed, shadowed, banners limp in the cold air. The hearth smoulders faintly, smoke coiling upward. Servants move through the space with purpose, carrying buckets, sweeping ashes, lighting the tall iron sconces. The steward stands near the dais, thin as a pole, eyes sharp as flint. He sees you. He sees everything. Breakfast is a thin affair. A ladle of watery porridge, a crust of bread gone hard at the edges. You stand to eat. Pages do not sit at table. The bowl is wooden, cracked along one side. You clutch it in numb fingers, trying not to spill. The porridge steams faintly, but gives little warmth. You swallow each mouthful quickly, forcing it past the lump in your throat. The bread scratches on the way down. Around you, the other boys eat in silence. Their eyes are dark with the same mix of hunger and fear and something colder still, resignation. When the steward claps his hands, you move. Quickly. Pages are not to dawdle. The morning will begin now in truth. Duties assigned, places taken. You wipe the bowl clean with a scrap of bread, set it on the tray with the others. Your hands tremble, whether from cold or nerves you cannot tell. The steward's voice cuts through the hall. New page, you. He points, you. Your heart lurches. You step forward, head bowed. His gaze rakes over you. Too small, too thin, but they all start that way. You will shadow the upper maid. The Lord's chambers must be swept. Do not speak unless spoken to. Do not be seen. Do not touch what is not yours. The words fall like stones. You nod, throat too tight to answer, and so it begins. Your first true morning as a page. Not with glory, not with swordplay or shining armour, but with a broom in your hand, a belly half empty, and the weight of 1,000 unseen rules pressing down upon narrow shoulders. The wheel has begun to turn, and you must keep pace, whether you understand it or not. The broom is rough in your hands, the wood worn smooth with years of use, the bristles stiff with old dirt. The upper maid does not speak to you beyond the first clipped instruction. Sweep the hearthstones. Keep out of sight when the Lord comes. Her tone leaves no room for question. You clutch the broom tighter, head bowed, and move as directed. The hall is vast, each flagstone slick with cold. The banners overhead stir faintly in the draughts that snake through every crack and joint in the stonework. You work in slow circles, brush rasping softly against soot and grit. The hearth is large, a gaping mouth black with old smoke. The logs within burn low, throwing weak light and less heat. Your fingers ache with the cold, even through the thin cloth of your sleeves. The cloak, too short to cover knees or wrists, flutters with each movement. You fight the urge to huddle closer to the embers. Pages do not loiter. Pages are not noticed. Around you, the great hall stirs into its daily rhythm. Servants hurry past with trays and cloths, faces set in lines of practised indifference. A pair of guards clank through in partial armour, voices low and rough. The steward stands at the dais, sharp eyes flicking from task to task. You feel his gaze pass over you more than once. You keep your head down, the broom moving in steady, measured strokes. To draw notice would be a mistake. The floor seems endless, each patch of soot and straw replaced by more as you move. Your arms tire quickly, the broom growing heavier with each pass. The ache in your back builds, sharp and insistent. You dare not pause. The upper maid watches from the far side of the hall, her glance enough to send fresh cold through your veins. The other boys, older pages, more practised, move through their own tasks with grim efficiency, polishing the long oak benches, setting fresh rushes, arranging the high tables worn silver. None spare you a glance. You are new. You are to be unseen. A shout echoes from the stairwell, and the Lord's voice sharp and impatient. The hall stills for a breath. You freeze, broom half lowered, heart hammering. The upper maid hisses a wordless command. You dart to one side, tucking yourself into the shadow of a pillar. The Lord enters, heavy cloak trailing behind him, boots loud on stone. His face is florid, expression sour. He speaks sharply to the steward, voice too low to catch. You do not look up. To meet his eye unbidden would be unwise. The moment passes. The Lord ascends the dais, his retinue settling around him. Conversation resumes, a muted murmur beneath the steady scrape of brooms and cloth. You emerge slowly from your hiding place, returning to your task with renewed care. The hall seems colder now, the shadows deeper. The broom moves in rhythm once more, though your arms tremble with fatigue. When at last the upper maid calls you away, your relief is thin and fleeting. Another task awaits. The corridor beyond the hall is narrow, the walls damp to the touch. You follow her wordlessly, broom clutched tight, boots scuffing softly on worn stone. "The Lord Solar next," she says. "Mind your feet, mind your tongue." You nod, throat dry. The Solar is smaller, though no warmer. Tapestries hang limp on the walls, their faded colours barely visible in the dim light. A tall chair stands near the hearth, its cushions worn thin. The floor here is cleaner, though dust still gathers in corners and beneath the low table. You begin again, broom scraping softly, each movement careful and precise. The upper maid watches from the doorway, eyes sharp. A noise behind you. Footsteps, soft but deliberate. You freeze. A lady enters, trailing silks that whisper against the floor. Her gaze flicks past you as though you're no more than the dust you sweep. You bow low, broom held still. She passes without a word. Only when her footsteps fade do you dare move again. The hours stretch thin, measured only by the ache in your arms, the slow crawl of grey light across the floor. There is no bell for pages, no call for rest, only the next task, and the next. After the solar comes the stairwell, narrow, steep, the stones worn slick. You sweep each step, shoulders hunched, breath misting in the chill. Then the side passages, the alcoves, the draughty antechamber where the guards take their ease. They ignore you. Voices rough with jest and drink. You keep your head down, broom moving steady as ever. By the time the steward calls the pages to meal, your limbs feel leaden, your fingers raw. You return the broom to its place by the scullery, hands trembling. The others file into the lesser hall, no seats, no ceremony. You eat standing, a thin broth and bread hard enough to crack a tooth. No one speaks. The meal is over in moments. There will be more tasks before day's end, more stone to sweep, more shadows to avoid. But for now, for a few breaths, you are still. The weight of the place presses close. Stone and duty, and the unspoken demand to be unseen, unnoticed. A page's place. You swallow the last mouthful, wipe your hands on your tunic and step once more into the grey rhythm of the day. The wheel turns, the day grinds on, and with it you. There is always more to do. Floors to sweep, tables to wipe, boots to clean. The halls echo with voices and footsteps, but none are yours. Pages speak little, and new pages least of all. You move where you're told, stand where you're placed, disappear when eyes turn your way. In time, even that effort becomes routine, a rhythm learned as surely as breath or heartbeat. You're not here to be seen, you are here to serve. When at last the bell tolls for the evening meal, you follow the others down the narrow stair to the lesser hall. The smell of smoke and grease hangs thick in the air. The tables here are plain, scarred with age, set low against the stone walls. Pages do not sit. You stand in a line along the far side, wooden bowls in hand. The steward's assistant, a sharp-faced man with a little patience, ladles out the meal, a thin stew, more water than substance, and a crust of bread grown stale at the edges. You murmur thanks as expected, though your stomach protests the delay. You eat quickly, standing, careful not to spill. The stew offers little warmth, the bread little satisfaction. Yet hunger sharpens all flavours, and you scrape the bowl clean with practised care. Conversation is sparse. The older pages speak in low tones, their words not meant for new ears. You listen without listening, eyes on the floor. To draw notice now would be foolish. There are eyes everywhere. The stewards, the captains, the lords. Discipline here is not loud, but it is swift. Once the bowls are washed and stacked, the pages disperse, some to fetch water, others to tend the fires or clean the lord's gear. You're sent with two others to the dormitory, a long, low room beneath the eaves of the keep. The ceiling slopes steeply, its beams dark with soot. The rushes underfoot are damp, the air thick with the scent of sweat and old straw. Along each wall stand narrow beds, more boards than mattress, each with a thin blanket and a rough woolen pillow. You find your place at the end of the row, nearest the draughty window slit, furthest from the hearth. The others claim their spots without a word. There is no jostling, no chatter. The rules are known. You strip down to tunic and hose, folding your cloak beneath the pillow. The boots you clean quickly, wiping mud from the worn leather with a rag. The tunic remains, thin, stained at the cuffs, but warm enough beneath the blanket. Before sleep, the eldest page leads a brief prayer, a few murmured words to ward off ill dreams, though the cold and hunger will do more to shape your night than any blessing. You murmur along, head bowed, though your eyes drift toward the shuttered window. The wind howls faintly beyond, rattling the wood. The night here is dark, darker than at home, where hearths and voices soften the shadows. Here, stone holds the cold close. You pull the blanket tighter and lie stiff beneath it. Sleep comes slowly. The straw beneath you shifts with each breath, each twitch of weary limbs. Your body aches from the day, shoulders tight from sweeping, arms sore from carrying buckets up and down endless stairs. The skin beneath your belt burns where the coarse linen rubbed raw. Your feet throb from standing too long in thin shoes on cold stone, yet exhaustion dulls the worst of it, dragging you downward in uneven fits. You wake often in the night, to the scuttle of rats in the beams, to the snore of the older boy in the next bed, to the chill breath of wind creeping through cracks in the stone. Each time you pull the blanket higher, curl tighter, willing warmth into numb fingers. The hours stretch long and shapeless. The bell will not toll again until dawn, yet you feel its approach in your bones. When at last grey light seeps through the shutter, the eldest page stirs first. No bell needed. His motion wakes the rest in turn. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, muscles sore. There is no time for complaint. The day begins again. You dress quickly, fumbling with belt and hose, tugging the cloak into place. The boots go on with effort, the leather cold and unyielding. Down the stair once more in line with the others. The same thin porridge, the same hard bread. You eat standing, eyes lowered. The steward reads the duties aloud, your name assigned to sweeping again, to polishing goblets, to shadowing the upper maid. The words settle on you like a fresh weight. There is no protest. There is no choice. The wheel turns, and so it is. Each day a careful dance of unseen labour. The clothes you wear are mended more often than washed. The meals fill just enough to leave you wanting. The sleep you find is thin and restless. The discipline is constant, in word, in glance, in the silence expected of you. A page's life is one of service, of invisibility, of slow, grinding endurance. You're at the beginning still, and the path ahead winds long through stone and cold and duty. The day comes, as they all do, grey and cold, the dormitory filled with the faint sound of wind through the beams and the rustle of rough woolen blankets. You rise before the bell this time, though not from eagerness. The older pages spoke of it the night before in low, knowing tones. Training, they said, though with no trace of excitement, only a weary inevitability. Today, the new pages would begin their lessons. You dress stiffly, fingers fumbling with belt and hose. The bruises from sweeping and scrubbing have faded into dull aches, replaced now by a nervous tension that coils in your belly. The porridge at breakfast sticks in your throat. The bread seems harder than ever. The steward's voice is thin and sharp as always. Training yard, pages to the yard. No more is said. No one lingers. The yard lies between the inner walls, a patch of frozen dirt and trampled straw ringed by stone and timber. The sky above is a pale smear, sun hidden, wind sharp. The training master waits already, a broad man with a broken nose and a voice like gravel. His gaze sweeps the line of new pages, settling on each in turn. You stand as tall as you can, though the wooden tunic chafes at the throat, the belt hanging loose around narrow hips. The first lesson is simple, wooden swords. They hang in rows against the far wall, lengths of rough-hewn oak, heavier than they look. The older pages move to take theirs with practised ease. You step forward when called, lifting a blade that drags at your arms. The grip is thick, worn smooth by countless hands. You hold it awkwardly, fingers white with strain. The drills begin with stances. Feet here, blade there, shoulders square. The master's voice is sharp, corrections swift. A wrong move earns a tap of the stick across your shins. Not cruel, merely instructional, though it stings enough to drive the lesson home. You shift, adjust, try again. The wooden blade pulls at your shoulders, the weight unfamiliar, unkind. Each motion grows heavier, the cold air burning in your throat. When the cuts begin, slow arcs through empty air, your arms shake by the third pass. The master barks, "Again! Straighter! Stronger!" You grit your teeth and obey. The wooden blade whistles clumsily, striking nothing but air. Nearby another boy stumbles, blade slipping from his grip. He earns a sharp word, a pointed glare. You tighten your hold, knuckles aching. Time blurs in the yard. There is no clock, no bell, only the rhythm of swing and stance and correction. Your body tires faster than your mind can follow. By the time the master calls a halt, your tunic clings with sweat, arms trembling near to uselessness. The blade slips from your fingers as you kneel, breath rasping. No one laughs, no one speaks. All know this same exhaustion, but the morning is not done. To the stables, comes the next order. Mount work. You follow the others across the muddy yard, legs stiff, cloak flapping weakly in the wind. The stable's warmth offers brief comfort, though the smell of sweat and hay and dung is thick. The horses snort and shift in their stalls, eyes rolling as the boys file in. You have no horse of your own, pages do not. Instead, an older gelding is led out, broad-backed, slow-eyed, patient in the way of beasts long used to foolish children. The master gestures and the first boy steps forward to mount. It is not graceful. The second tries, nearly falling. Then the third. Your turn comes sooner than expected. You approach with heart hammering, boots slipping in the straw. The gelding eyes you without interest. The stirrup is too high. You grasp the saddle awkwardly, hauling yourself upward with more will than skill. Your foot catches, your knee scrapes wood. For a breath you balance precariously, then, thud, overbalance, tumbling to the ground in a tangle of limbs and cloak. The stable floor is hard, the straw thin. Laughter ripples faintly from the older pages. The master does not laugh. Again! You rise, bruised, pride thinner than your cloak. The next attempt fares no better, nor the third. By the fourth, you manage to sit astride, barely, legs trembling with the effort of balance. The gelding shifts beneath you, and you clutch the saddle horn as though life depends on it, which at the moment it does. There is no riding today, only mounting and dismounting, again and again. Each time the ground meets you with fresh welcome. Each time the gelding stares with weary patience. By the end, your arms are lead, your thighs burning. You can barely stand when called to dismount the final time. The master gives no praise, only tomorrow again. Learn or fall. The words weigh heavy as iron. You follow the others from the stable, each step a stiff echo of the morning's falls. The yard seems colder now, the wind sharper. The wheel has turned once more, and tomorrow it will turn again. You wake colder than usual. The dormitory air bites sharp against your nose. The rushes beneath the straw mattress stiff with frost. No bell tolls this time, no steward's barked command. You wake because the eldest page shakes your shoulder with a hand already chilled to the bone. His voice is a whisper, but it carries weight. Up, morning service. You sit upright, blanket falling away in a puff of frosted breath. The tunic you slept in clings with sweat gone cold, the sleeves rough against your skin. You dress quickly, teeth chattering. The cloak goes on last, its damp weight no true shield against the chill. The boots, stiff from yesterday's work, take longer, fingers numb and clumsy. Around you, the others move in silence, faces pale in the grey pre-dawn light. No one speaks. They all know the rhythm of this morning. The hall beyond the dormitory is darker than usual, torches unlit, the air thick with the breath of stone. Your footsteps echo faintly on the stair. Below, the great hall yawns in gloom, banners limp, hearth cold. Pages do not linger. You cross quickly, boots scuffing across uneven flagstones toward the side passage that leads to the chapel. The chapel is small, more an extension of the old keep than a true place of worship. The walls are bare stone, the floor a patchwork of worn tiles and cracked slabs. At the far end, a narrow altar stands beneath a faded tapestry, the threadbare image of a saint barely visible in the dim light. A single iron candelabrum holds 4 stubby candles, their flames struggling against the draught that snakes through unseen cracks. You file in with the others, taking your place along the wall. Pages do not sit. Pages stand, hands clasped, heads bowed. The cold here is sharper than in the dormitory. The stone beneath your feet leaches warmth faster than breath can give it. You shift from foot to foot, trying to fight the numbness creeping into your legs. The cloak does little good. Its edges flutter weakly in the constant chill. The chaplain arrives last, a thin man swaddled in layers of wool and linen, face shadowed beneath a heavy cowl. His voice is low, words blurred by the echoes of stone. The prayers begin, familiar phrases intoned with slow, deliberate rhythm. You mouth them as best you can, though your lips barely move, breath clouding with each word. Time stretches oddly in the chapel. The service is not long by measure of bells, but within these walls each minute feels doubled. The cold seeps deeper, numbing fingers, stiffening joints. Your shoulders ache from standing. Your head grows heavy from the dull monotony of chant and silence. The eldest page shifts slightly beside you, breath hissing through clenched teeth. You dare not move too much. The chaplain's gaze is sharp despite the cowl. When the prayers end, the candles gutter in the draught. The chaplain murmurs a final blessing, voice thin and weary. No dismissal is given. You know the pattern. Pages wait until the elders depart. Only when the older boys turn do you move, feet sluggish, legs trembling with fatigue. The corridor beyond feels no warmer. The light of dawn has barely begun to creep into the high windows of the keep. Your stomach growls faintly, though the morning meal is still some time away. The eldest page leads the line back through the hall, past servants already bustling with the day's work. The great hearth still lies dark, the air sharp with the scent of damp stone and old ash. You strip the cloak in the dormitory, fingers fumbling at the knot. The boots come off next, stiff and uncooperative. The tunic you smooth with shaking hands, though the creases remain. There will be no time to change before duties begin. You sit briefly on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped, breath slow. The chapel's cold lingers in your bones, the prayers in your ears. There is no comfort here, only routine, only duty. When the bell finally tolls for the morning meal, you rise again, legs heavy, joints stiff, down the stair into the lesser hall. The same thin porridge, the same hard bread. The steward reads the day's duties without pause, without glance. Pages to the yard, pages to the hall, pages to the Lord's chamber. The words settle like frost. You eat quickly, throat still tight from the chapel's chill. The day will not wait. The wheel turns. You rise once more, cloak gathered tight, and step into the rhythm of service. Body cold, spirit colder still. Another morning begun. You do not mark time here by calendars, not truly. The days blur one into another, measured more by chores than by dates. Sweep the hall, polish the goblets, tend the hearth, and again, and again. But when the steward begins to speak of the feast day, even you notice the difference. The castle shifts subtly. More carts arrive through the gatehouse. The kitchens grow louder, smoke thicker. The servants move with sharper purpose. Something is coming. You're not certain what, only that your place in it will be small. On the morning of the feast you wake earlier than usual, not by choice but by noise. The dormitory stirs before dawn, pages dressing quickly, hurried whispers passing from bed to bed. The eldest page calls for order with a sharp glance. Clean tunics today, cloaks brushed, boots, as best you can. You obey, though the tunic remains a shade too short, the cloak thin and patched despite your efforts. The boots you scrub hastily, the old leather stubborn beneath your rag. The great hall is transformed. Banners hung from the beams, fresh rushes strewn thick upon the floor. The hearth burns high, its warmth welcome after the chapel's chill. Long tables stand ready, trestles groaning beneath their weight. You glimpse silver, real silver, though tarnished and battered by age. The air hums with unfamiliar scents, roast meats, spiced wine, bread still warm from the oven. Your stomach knots with hunger, but there is no time to linger. The steward's voice cracks through the bustle. Pages to the wall, no standing idle, no speaking. You know what this means. There will be no place at table for you, no seat among the guests, no dish of your own. Pages watch from above, unseen, unheard. You follow the others up the narrow stair, boots thudding softly on the worn steps. The wall walk runs high along the side of the hall, a narrow ledge of timber and stone shielded by a low rail. You take your place near the centre, shoulder to shoulder with the other boys. From here you can see the entire hall, the high table where the lord and his guests will sit, the long benches below, the hearth blazing at one end. The space fills quickly. Knights in fine cloaks, merchants in fur-trimmed gowns, minor lords and their retinues. The air grows thick with sound, laughter, shouted greetings, the scrape of benches on stone. From your vantage, you watch it unfold. The lord enters with his household, the great horn sounded in welcome. Pages bow low, though unseen from above. The guests rise, then sit again at the steward's command. The first course is served, platters borne high by sweating servants, the scent making your mouth water painfully. You shift your weight from foot to foot, legs already stiff from standing. There will be no food for you here. The feast stretches on, an endless parade of dishes and drink. Roasted birds, heavy pies, glazed fruits, wheels of cheese. The clatter of knives and goblets rises in waves, punctuated by bursts of laughter. Below, the younger servants dart between tables, eyes wide, arms laden. You stand still as trained, hands clasped, back straight, gaze low. The older pages manage it with practiced ease. You mimic them as best you can, though fatigue creeps steadily into your limbs. The cold seeps through the wall behind you, the timber beneath your boots worn smooth and slick. Your fingers grow numb, shoulders aching from tension. Time passes strangely here, measured not by bell or chore, but by the ebb and flow of the feast. The second course fades into the third. The wine flows thicker, voices louder. A minstrel plays a thin, reedy tune from the dais. You barely hear it over the growl of your stomach. From above, you see what others do not. The subtle shifts beneath the surface. A knight's forced smile, a merchant's glance too sharp, the steward's frown when a dish arrives late. You learn to read these signs, though none will teach you. It is part of your place, to see, to remember, to remain unseen. As the feast wanes, the hall grows hazy with smoke and heat. The hearth's blaze feels distant now, your feet near numb. Yet you do not move, not yet. Only when the lord rises, voice raised in toast, goblet high, do the pages stir. The elder signals with a glance. You file silently from the wall walk, legs trembling, breath shallow. Back in the corridor, the cold bites sharp. The eldest page allows a rare word. Well enough. You exhale slowly, tension draining though the hunger remains. There will be scraps later, perhaps. Crusts and bones left for the lower hall. Not now. Now there is still work to be done. Benches to clear, goblets to wash, rushes to sweep anew. The feast is not for you, not yet. Perhaps not ever. But you have seen it now, from above, through tired eyes and empty belly. You have stood your place, silent and still, and the wheel turns once more. Time in the castle does not move in leaps. It does not mark itself with bright banners or sudden change. It creeps, slow as the damp through stone. You notice it first, not in yourself, but in the world around you, in the way the oldest page leaves without fanfare one pale morning, a brief nod from the steward marking his passing, in the way new boys arrive, smaller, thinner, with the same wide, uncertain eyes you once wore. You watch them from the side now, no longer the smallest in the dormitory, no longer quite new. Your tunic fits differently these days, not by choice. The sleeves ride shorter on your wrists, the hem pulls higher when you kneel to sweep. The belt, once looped twice, now knots only once. The boots wear through faster, feet grown too long for the old pair. You mend what you can, beg a replacement when you must. The steward notices, of course. He notices everything. Your chores change little. The broom remains a constant companion, the cold stones of the hall as unforgiving as ever. But now you are trusted with more delicate tasks, polishing the goblets for the high table, folding the Lord's linens just so, running messages through the winding, draft-filled corridors. You're sent alone more often now, expected to remember the paths, the faces, the subtle rules of where you may and may not tread. The days stretch long, shaped by familiar rhythms. Morning service in the cold chapel, the scrape of wooden swords in the yard, the endless sweep of stone beneath aching feet. Yet between these things, small changes creep in. You no longer fall as often in the stables. The wooden sword grows less heavy in your hands. You remember the prayers without stumbling, stand straighter beneath the chaplain's gaze. Your body changes too, though slower than you might wish. Arms and legs grown longer, awkward in movement, voice rougher, unpredictable. You eat what you can, though the meals remain thin. Growth outpaces rations. Hunger becomes an old companion. You learn which kitchens offer scraps, which servants might turn a blind eye when bread goes missing. The older pages treat you differently now. Not as equal, never that, but with a wary sort of acknowledgement. They nod when you pass, they correct you less. The youngest pages glance your way often, watching, learning by your example. You remember that gaze. You remember how large the world seemed then, how heavy the broom, how endless the days. The seasons mark themselves faintly in the castle's bones. In summer, the halls grow stifling, the rushes damp with sweat and spilled ale. In winter, frost creeps along the walls, your breath a constant ghost. The work does not change, nor do the expectations. You grow within this rhythm, shaped by it as surely as the stones are shaped by cold and wind. There are moments, rare and fleeting, when you catch sight of yourself reflected in polished metal. A goblet, a tray. The face that looks back is leaner now, sharper at the edges. The eyes hold more than they once did. More watchfulness, more caution, perhaps more weariness. You do not linger on these reflections. They matter little. There is work to do. And so the years pass, though you do not name them. Time is counted in tasks, in the slow deepening of voice and strength, in the fading fear beneath the steward's sharp gaze. One day, without ceremony, your broom is handed to a younger page. The steward calls you by name, not boy. A new tunic waits, less worn, cut broader through the shoulders. You'll serve as squire soon enough, the upper maid remarks in passing, though her tone carries no warmth, only the truth of it. The wheel turns. The place you've known begins to shift beneath your feet, slowly, without fanfare, without rest. You take the tunic, fingers tracing the new seams. Another day begins. Another step forward, though the stones beneath your boots feel no different. The cold wind still snakes through the cracks. The chapel waits. The yard waits. The Lord's hall waits. And you, now taller, now stronger, move within it still. One more piece of the great slow dance of stone and duty. There is no grand moment. No trumpet, no banner, no solemn words spoken beneath a vaulted ceiling. One morning, after years that crept like ivy through stone, the steward simply calls your name before the day's duties are read. His voice is as dry as old parchment. You'll serve as squire now to Sir Alric. A nod. No more, no less. You stand a moment longer than you should, caught between surprise and weariness. A subtle glance from the eldest page reminds you to move. You bow stiffly, words catching in your throat. The steward does not notice, or pretends not to. The wheel is turned again, and you must follow. The news spreads quickly, though few remark on it. A nod here, a brief glance from the older boys. The youngest pages eye you with a mixture of envy and wariness. You remember that look. You remember standing where they do now, small and uncertain. The distance between then and now feels both vast and perilously thin. Your new place is no grander than the last. A narrower bed in the squire's chamber, beneath a beam where the wind finds every crack. The blanket is thicker, though no warmer. Your tunic is exchanged for one of deeper colour, the fabric only slightly finer. A sword belt is given, though the blade that will hang from it remains blunt and battered. For now, the duties change as well. Gone is the broom, replaced by endless hours with rag and oil and whetstone. Sir Alric's mail must gleam, each ring inspected, each link scrubbed free of rust and blood alike. His blade must sing against the whetstone's edge, smooth and sharp. His saddle must be cleaned, the leather oiled, the girth checked thrice before each ride. His cloak must hang free of stain, his boots polished near to mirror shine. And when the lord rides out, to hunt, to parley, to war, you ride behind, burdened with spare arms, fresh cloaks, a mind full of things that must not be forgotten. The mornings begin earlier now. You rise in darkness, muscles stiff from the day before, joints slow to obey. The chapel waits, cold as ever. The prayers come easier, lips moving of their own accord. The drills in the yard follow, sword and shield heavier now, the weight of mail adding new strain to tired limbs. Sir Alric expects presence at each session. His gaze is sharp, his temper sharper. A missed step, a poor guard, earns no leniency. Bruises bloom beneath your tunic, ribs tight with effort. Meals are taken in haste, standing still. Bread and broth, little else. There is no time for leisure. Afternoons pass in the stables, tending the war horses. Beasts larger and more temperamental than the geldings of your page days. Their hooves strike sparks from stone. Their breath steams in clouds. The work is back-breaking, the risk constant. A single misstep can earn more than bruises. Evenings bring yet more labour. Mail to clean, weapons to tend, leather to mend. Sir Alric's demands are precise and without end. You learn quickly, or you suffer for it. There is little room for pride, less for complaint. And yet, beneath the grind, beneath the weight of duty, a change stirs. Subtle, relentless. The sword no longer drags at your hip as it once did. The mail's weight settles more easily on your shoulders. The horse beneath you feels less a wild creature, more a partner. The steward's gaze carries a flicker of recognition now. Thin, fleeting, but present. The guards at the gate nod when you pass. The servants make way. You're no longer unseen. Not entirely, and with that comes a heavier burden still. Nights are short. The squire's chamber is restless, each boy caught in his own rhythm of exhaustion and anticipation. You sleep when you can, fitful and shallow. Dreams of swordplay, of endless corridors, of distant battlefields haunt the brief hours of dark. The cold remains constant, the ache in your bones deepens, but you rise, each day, without fail, for now this is your place, no longer page. Not yet knight, a blade in waiting, a servant still, bound to duty, to stone to the slow unending turn of the wheel. There are tasks that shape the day, loud and visible. The clash of wooden blades in the yard, the jangle of bridles in the stable, the sharp commands of the captain ringing across the stone. And then there are the tasks that shape the nights, the quieter, slower, heavier ones. Chief among them now is this, the care of iron. Sir Alric's armour does not gleam by chance, nor does it clean itself. And so, when the drills are done, when the horses are stabled, when the last thin bowl of stew has been swallowed in weary silence, you find yourself once more before the rack in the armoury, sleeves rolled, oil and rags in hand. The mail comes first, a heavy shirt of interlocked rings, each a small snare for sweat, blood and rust. You spread it across the bench, fingers tracing the familiar weight. The links catch at your skin as you lift them, the cold of the iron sinking through flesh to bone. A bucket of vinegar sits nearby, sharp and sour, the smell strong enough to sting the eyes. You dip the rag, wring it out, and begin the slow, methodical work. Each ring must be wiped, turned, wiped again. The cloth darkens quickly. Streaks of old grime, new rust, the faint stain of blood from the last hunt, the last skirmish, the last lesson gone awry. Your fingers grow raw with the work, the iron rough beneath the cloth. The weight of it pulls at your arms, your shoulders burning long before the task is half done. Time fades in this labour. The armoury is dim, lit by a single guttering torch. The stones hold the cold close, the air heavy with oil and iron. You move in rhythm, wipe, turn, wipe, shift. The silence broken only by the soft rasp of cloth on metal, the slow drip of vinegar from rag to floor. Next comes the plate, the breast and back, the pauldrons, the greaves, larger surfaces but no less demanding. You lift each piece with care, setting them across the bench. The straps must be checked, the buckles cleaned of old sweat and mould, the leather cracks beneath your fingers if left too long. You oil it carefully, working the stiff seams with thumb and cloth. The metal bears its own story. Scratches along the breast where a blade slid too close, dents in the greaves from a horse's wild kick, the faint line along the vambrace from a crossbow bolt that glanced instead of struck true. You know these marks better than your own reflection. You polish them all the same, though they will not disappear. They are part of the armour now, part of you too. The helm waits last. A full-face piece of heavy iron, visor slit narrow, padding within stained dark with old sweat. The smell is stronger here, metal, leather, the faint sourness of countless long rides and longer battles. You wipe the outer shell first, working the cloth into every crease, every rivet. The visor must move smoothly. You oil the hinges with care, testing the lift and fall until it no longer catches. The inner padding you brush as best you can, though some stains are beyond the reach of cloth or soap. By the time you finish, your hands tremble with fatigue. The rags lie dark and sodden, the vinegar bucket nearly empty. You straighten slowly, joints creaking, back stiff from hours bent over the bench. The armour gleams faintly now, not mirror bright but clean, ready. It will please Sir Alric, or, at the least, it will not displease him. In this place that is often the greater triumph. You hang each piece in its place upon the rack. Mail first, then plate, then helm. The order matters, the order must be kept. You check each strap one final time, each buckle, each clasp. Your fingers move of their own accord now, guided by habit as much as thought. The torch burns lower. The air in the armoury grows colder. You gather the used rags, rinse the worst of the grime from your hands in the basin by the door. The water is ice cold, biting deep. You dry your fingers on your tunic, though the chill lingers in the bones. Outside, the halls lie quiet. The other squires sleep already, or near to it. You climb the stair slowly, muscles heavy with the day's labour. In the chamber, the rushes crackle faintly beneath your boots. You strip in silence, folding tunic and hose with tired hands. The blanket feels thin tonight, the straw beneath harder than ever. Yet you sleep. Not deeply, not without dreams, but enough. The wheel turns, and tomorrow the iron will need tending once more. There is a difference between sitting on a horse and riding one. A difference you feel in every bruised inch of your body long before the day is done. As a page, you learn to mount and dismount, to cling, more often than not, to the saddle with clenched thighs and white-knuckled hands. Now, as squire, you are expected to ride, expected to stay seated when the horse moves faster than a tired walk, expected to guide, not simply survive. Your first mount is no sleek charger, no noble destrier bred for war. He's a rangy bay gelding with a stubborn streak, a patchy coat, and a gait rough enough to shake loose teeth. The stable master hands you the reins without ceremony. He'll teach you more than any knight, is all he says, though whether it is praise or warning you cannot tell. You check the tack with trembling fingers, recalling each lesson in turn. Saddle straps tight, bit set properly, stirrups adjusted. The gelding watches you with one large indifferent eye, flicking his tail against your shoulder. You mount clumsily, Too fast, too slow, too heavy, scraping shin against leather, nearly losing balance before settling into the worn saddle. The stirrups bite at your boots, the reins too stiff in your grip. Your heart beats faster than it should. Sir Alric does not wait. A sharp nod, a wordless signal, and his own mount, a great black charger, moves ahead. You follow, or try to. The gelding responds sluggishly, a half lurch that jerks your spine, leaves your teeth rattling. The first circuit of the yard is agony, jolting, bouncing, each step driving fresh bruises into thigh and back alike. You learn quickly that balance is not found in brute force, that clutching the saddle invites worse pain, that stiff arms tire long before the ride is done. You shift, adjust, let the movement of the horse flow through you, or attempt to. The gelding tests you, stopping suddenly, veering toward the fence, lowering his head so abruptly you nearly pitch forward. The stable hands watch from the gate, grinning behind weathered hands. You grit your teeth, jaw tight with stubbornness. The drills continue, walk, trot, canter, halt, again and again. The gelding's gait grows no smoother, your posture grows no steadier. The ache in your legs deepens until standing becomes its own torment. Blisters bloom where boot rubs stirrup, where belt chafes hip. Sweat soaks tunic and hose despite the cold. Breath comes in short, ragged bursts. And yet, amid the bruises, the stumbles, the endless circling of the yard, small victories emerge. A steadier seat, a surer grip. A moment, brief but real, when horse and rider move as one, not two battling wills. Sir Alric offers no praise, but you catch the flicker of a glance, the faintest nod. It is enough. The days that follow bring more of the same. The gelding remains stubborn. You remain sore. The stable smells of sweat and hay and manure, a thick scent that clings to skin and hair alike. You rise each morning with new bruises, new stiffness. Yet you mount again because it is expected. Because to refuse would be unthinkable. Over time, the worst of the pain dulls. Muscles strengthen. Balance comes more easily. The gelding resists less, though he remains no gentler. You learn to read his moods, the flick of an ear, the twitch of a shoulder, and to respond before defiance becomes disaster. You ride beyond the yard now, into the fields, along narrow forest paths where footing shifts and branches claw at cloak and skin. There is no joy in it, not yet. Only the grind of duty, the slow forging of skill through repetition and failure. But there is pride, quiet, bone deep, in remaining seated where once you fell, in guiding where once you clung, in enduring where once you despaired. The gelding remains yours for now. Not truly yours, of course, but enough. His sweat stains your tunic as surely as your labour earns his grudging acceptance. The stable hands no longer smirk when you ride. Sir Alric watches with narrowed gaze, saying nothing. You return each day with muscles aflame, with blisters raw, with legs that tremble to walk. And yet, you return. This is the shape of it. The slow, grinding climb. No banners, no bright cheers. Only the wheel, turning. Only you, moving with it. The wooden swords are gone. You notice it before the steward even speaks, before Sir Alric calls you to the yard that morning. The racks where they once hung stand bare, the worn hilts and splintered edges replaced now by the dull gleam of steel. Blunted, yes, but steel all the same. Your hands sweat before you even grip the hilt. Sir Alric does not speak at length. He never does. Only, blades today. You'll use them or you'll bleed. A flat statement of fact. No threat required. You step forward when called, heart thudding beneath ribs already bruised from yesterday's ride. The sword is heavier than you expect, colder, more solid than the wooden practice blades. The grip fits poorly in your calloused hands, the balance strange and unfamiliar. The yard is colder this morning, the sun no more than a pale smear behind low clouds. The ground beneath your boots is churned mud and straw, slick from the past night's frost. Other squires stand ready, older, broader, their armour newer, their gazes sharp. You find your place at the line's end, shoulders squared, back stiff despite the tremor in your limbs. The drills begin simply enough. Guards, cuts, footwork. Motions you have traced 1,000 times with wood now feel foreign with steel. The blade pulls at your arms, each swing slower than it should be. Your shoulders burn within minutes, the ache deepening with each repetition. The mud clutches at your boots, balance harder won than in the dry dust of summer. Then comes pairing. No gentle introduction. Sir Alric barks a name, gestures. You face an older squire, blade lifted in greeting. He returns the gesture, a flicker of something. Amusement, perhaps, in his eyes. The first clash is a shock. Steel meeting steel with a jolt that runs through arms and spine alike. Your grip nearly slips. You recover too slowly, the next blow catching your shoulder hard enough to stagger. No pause, no sympathy. The rhythm presses on. Blades ring against each other, each strike sending fresh pain through tired muscles. The blunted edge raises welts along your ribs, across thighs already bruised from the saddle. Your arms shake, breath comes ragged, vision narrowing beneath the sweat that stings your eyes. Time becomes a blur of motion and pain. There is no room for thought, only instinct. Block, parry, step, cut. Each mistake earns swift correction, a sharp strike, a barked command, the cold bite of steel through padded cloth. Your body tires faster than your will, though the will frays with each passing moment. When Sir Alric finally calls a halt, your limbs tremble too much to lower the blade smoothly. You kneel in the mud, chest heaving, bruises blooming dark beneath sweat-soaked tunic. Around you, others stand only slightly straighter, their own faces drawn with exhaustion. There are no victors here, only survivors. But the lesson is not over. The sword is sheathed only briefly. Next come the shields, heavy, unbalanced, edges splintered from years of use. You lift yours with effort, arm already numb from the morning's work. The pairing begins anew. Blows rain down against the shield's rim, jarring shoulder and neck. You learn quickly that defense is no rest, each block as tiring as the strike it denies. Your legs ache with constant movement, forward, back, circle, step. The mud turns slicker beneath trampling boots, each footing uncertain. More than once you fall, shoulder striking earth hard enough to bruise anew. You rise without waiting for command. The others do the same. There is no shame in falling here, only in failing to stand again. The day stretches longer than thought can measure. By midday the sword feels an iron weight in your grip, the shield and anchor dragging you beneath unseen tides. When the final halt is called, you can barely lift your arms. Sir Alric surveys the line in silence, eyes weighing each squire's endurance, each failure, each stubborn refusal to yield. No praise is given, no rebuke, only, tomorrow again, be ready. The words land heavier than the blade itself. You stumble to the armoury, boots leaving muddy prints across cold stone. The sword must be cleaned, oiled, edge checked and filed where needed. The shield scrubbed free of blood and grime, though the cracks beneath remain. Your fingers barely obey by the end, each motion a slow battle against weariness. When at last you climb to the squire's chamber, the sun hangs low, light grey and thin. You strip with shaking hands, each bruise a dull throb beneath skin gone taut with strain. The blanket feels rougher tonight, the straw harder. Sleep comes not as rest, but as collapse, a plunge into blackness shaped by exhaustion, limbs too heavy to move, and tomorrow the blades will wait again, and so will you. The wheel turns, you feel it before you hear it, a shift in the rhythm of the castle. Fewer lessons, more messengers, horses prepared in the grey light of dawn. Sir Alric speaks little, but his movements grow sharper, his gaze more distant. The word reaches you in fragments at first. Campaign, march, banners raised. The full meaning comes only when the steward reads the orders aloud. The company rides within 3 days. Squires will accompany, duties will double. There is no room for delay. You pack what little is yours into a rough leather sack. A second tunic worn through at the elbows, a spare pair of hose threadbare, a whetstone, a bone comb, the thin blanket from your bed, though it smells of damp and straw. The rest, your sword, your kit, belongs to Sir Alric and to duty. The days before the march blur with labour. Harness cleaned and checked, horses shod, arms packed in oilcloth, tents, great heavy things of waxed linen, rolled tight and bound with rope, provisions gathered, hard bread, salted meat, dried peas. Not enough, never enough. You know this already. The older squires do not speak of it, but their glances say enough. When the day comes, you rise before the bell. The yard is alive with movement long before the sun breaks the clouds. Men-at-arms tightening saddles, archers slinging quivers across their backs, banners unfurling in the cold wind. You lead Sir Alric's warhorse from the stable, a beast near twice your weight, eyes rolling white with restless energy. The pack horse follows, burdened near to collapse beneath tent poles, spare gear, sacks of grain already mildewed. The march begins with little ceremony. Sir Alric mounts in silence, his cloak snapping in the wind. You ride behind, thighs aching before the first league is past. The gelding beneath you plods steady, though each step jars through bruised hips and spine. The sword at your side feels heavier with each hour. The pack across your shoulders pulls at tired muscles. The road is rough, a rutted track through fields gone bare with winter's bite. The wind cuts through cloak and tunic, numbing fingers on the reins. You shift often, trying to ease the growing ache in knees and back. It does little good. Time loses meaning on the march. The rhythm of hooves on frozen earth, the creak of leather and wood, the low murmur of voices becomes the shape of your world. Evening brings no rest. The camp must be raised first, tents pitched beneath a sky gone dark with cloud. You work by torchlight, fingers stiff with cold, ropes biting into raw palms. The ground beneath is frozen, the stakes refusing to hold. The wind howls through the half-finished lines, tearing at canvas and cloak alike. When the last tent stands, crooked, leaking but standing, you gather what passes for a meal. A crust of bread gone hard as stone, a strip of salt pork near inedible. The stew pot simmers weakly over a smoky fire, its contents thin and bitter. You eat crouch near the embers, boots soaked through, breath clouding in the icy air. Sleep comes hard. The tent offers little warmth, less comfort. You curl beneath your blanket, cloak wrapped tight, every joint aching from the day's ride. The sounds of the camp drift through the canvas. The low murmur of guards, the restless snort of horses, the crack of distant frost. You wake often, teeth chattering, limbs stiff and numb. And then, too soon, the horn sounds. Another day begins. The tent must be struck, the gear packed, the horses saddled. You move on legs that barely obey, hands fumbling with frozen buckles. The bread is harder this morning, the stew colder, the wind sharper. Yet the march resumes without pause. Days blend one into another. The miles stretch endless. Provisions dwindle. The bread grows stale, the meat near rancid. Hunger gnaws beneath every breath. Water turns to mud in the skins. You drink it still. There is no choice. The men grow leaner, quieter. Faces pale beneath dirt and stubble. The horses tire, hooves cracked, coats dull with sweat and grime. You tend them as best you can, though your own strength wanes with each passing league. The sword grows heavier still, the pack a burden beyond words, and yet you endure, because there is no other way, because to fall behind is to be left behind, because the wheel turns and you must turn with it. In the evenings, you tend Sir Alric's gear by flickering firelight. The mail rusts faster now, the leather stiff with damp. Your fingers tremble with each stitch, each stroke of cloth. The bruises from the yard fade, replaced by deeper aches in bone and marrow. And still, you ride, you march, you pitch the tent, you break it down, you eat what little there is, you sleep when you can, if you can. The days stretch thin, the nights thinner still. But you endure. This is the life of the camp. No banners here, no bright songs. Only hunger, cold, and the endless road. And the knowledge that ahead, worse, may yet wait. You do not remember when the talk began. A word here, a glance there. The map spread on Sir Alric's table, the captain's voice lower than before. The men's laughter thinner around the fires. The horses restless in their lines. You knew it would come. All squires know, though no one speaks it plainly. And then, one morning, it is not a march that follows the dawn, but preparation. No drills today, no polishing of mail beneath the cold sky. Instead, gear checked twice, thrice. Harness tightened until leather creaks. Swords whetted to new sharpness. Lances fitted, shields braced. The camp a murmur of voices pitched low. The clink of iron constant beneath breath and wind. You wake before the horn this time, stomach twisting tight. The tunic you pull on feels thinner today, the mail heavier. Each buckle strains stiff fingers. The sword belt sits wrong on your hip. The horse stands ready, flanks heaving, eyes wide. You speak to him softly, though the words feel strange, your own voice unfamiliar in your ears. The road is shorter now. No endless leagues beneath grey sky, only the path through damp forest. Earth churned black with the passage of men and beasts. The sun is no more than a pale smudge beyond the clouds. You ride behind Sir Alric in silence, the weight of the lance unfamiliar in your grip, shield rim pressing hard against shoulder. When the column halts, it is sudden. The captains ride forward, voices sharp beneath the clang of hooves. Sir Alric dismounts, tossing the reins to you without word. You hold them with trembling hands, breath caught high in your chest. Around you, the others do the same. Squires, footmen, archers, all waiting, all watching. The first sounds come distant, the dull thud of drums, the faint shout of command. The men-at-arms form line, shields raised, visors lowered. You cannot see the foe, only the shifting line of iron and cloth ahead, the horses stamping in the muck, and then the order, sudden, sharp. Sir Alric mounts, visor snapping down. His words to you are few. Stay close. Watch. He rides forward. You follow on foot, legs weak beneath the weight of mail and shield, the sword at your side heavy as stone. The ground beneath is no training yard. Mud thickens with each step, sucking at boots, turning each movement into battle. The noise grows, metal on metal, cries torn from raw throats, the scream of horses. The line surges, breaks, reforms. You stumble forward, shield high, breath ragged, vision narrowing to the blur of bodies and blades. You do not remember drawing the sword. One moment it hangs at your side, the next it shakes in your grip, dull edge streaked with mud and worse. The clash comes too fast, a figure before you, blade raised. You strike without thought, the jolt through your arm near numbing. The next comes from the side, a blow to the shield that sends you sprawling, air punched from your lungs. You rise because you must, because Sir Alric's banner still flies ahead, because the wheel turns. You find your feet, shield raised, blade trembling. The press of bodies is suffocating, men shouting, falling, rising again, the mud slick beneath blood and filth, the air thick with smoke, with iron, with fear. There is no rhythm here, no pattern of drill or yard, only survival, block, strike, stumble, gasp. Each breath a battle, each moment a question unanswered. You lose track of time, of place. The The faces before you blur, the weight of armour and blade dragging at limbs near spent. And then a horn, distant, ragged. The line shifts, the foe pulling back. Orders shouted hoarse and wild. Sir Alric rides past, blade dark with use, voice sharp with command. You follow, legs near useless, shield splintered, breath a thin rasp. When at last the field stills, it is not victory you feel, only exhaustion, only the slow, creeping numbness of body and thought. You stand amid churned earth and broken forms, the sky above unchanged, the wind sharp with the scent of blood and smoke. You clean the sword with shaking hands, the cloth dark in moments. The mail beneath your tunic clings with sweat, with filth. The bruises will bloom deep and dark. The shield is lost, cast aside somewhere in the press. You do not look for it. Sir Alric speaks no praise, no rebuke. Only, you stood. And then, see to the horses. The words fall heavy, final. You move because you must. The camp rebuilt in the wreck of the day. Fires lit where the wind allows. The stew taste of ash, of smoke. You eat in silence, limbs near useless. The blanket offers little warmth that night. Sleep comes thin, broken by echoes of sound and sight. And tomorrow, the blade will be cleaned again. The mail repaired, the horse saddled, and you will stand once more, because the wheel turns, and you turn with it. The field is behind you now, though the stench of it clings to mail and skin alike. The camp is no warmer for the distance gained. Fires burn low beneath a sky turned slate grey with smoke. The air carries a dampness that seeps through cloak and tunic, through skin and bone. You move through it as through a dream, each step heavy, each breath raw in the chest. Sir Alric's horse is lamed, a ragged cut along its flank. You lead it carefully to the lines, voice low, movement slow. The beast trembles beneath your hand, eyes rolling, breath harsh. You tend the wound as best you can. Clean cloth, cold water, rough-stitched bandage with trembling fingers. There is no time, no skill for more. Then, the blade, the mail, the endless weight of duty. You strip the mail with arms that barely obey. The rings catch against tunic and flesh, each movement a fresh agony. Beneath, the linen is stiff with sweat and worse, the bruises darkening across ribs and shoulders. You do not count them. You do not care. The mail comes first. You spread it across the bench near the failing light of the brazier, its glow faint and flickering. The iron is dark, streaked with rust, with blood gone black at the edges. The smell is sharp, vinegar, sweat, the copper tang of iron old and new. You dip the rag, begin the work, slow, methodical, ring by ring, wipe, turn, wipe again. The cloth darkens quickly, the vinegar stings raw knuckles, seeps into shallow cuts. The mail resists, grime packed tight in the links, rust blooming where the rings rubbed hard in the press of bodies. Your breath fogs in the cold air, the rag grows heavy in your hand. Next, the sword. You draw it from the battered scabbard, the blade dull beneath dried streaks, notched along the edge where it met shield and mail, bent faintly near the point. You lay it flat, fingers tracing the damage. No time for pride, no room for shame. Only the work. The whetstone bites against steel, each stroke slow, deliberate. Sparks flicker in the dim light. The rhythm steadies your breath. Draw, lift, draw again. The edge will not sing today, but it will cut. It must. You wipe it clean, oil the blade with careful strokes, watching the sheen return faint and uneven. The hilt is slick with old blood, the leather worn smooth beneath your grip. You wind new cloth where the binding is split, fingers stiff and clumsy. The work is slow, each knot a battle against trembling hands. The shield is gone, lost in the mud trampled beneath the press. You do not speak of it, you do not ask. Another will be found, another will be broken. The wheel turns. You tend Sir Alric's gear next. His blade, cleaner, less marred, though no less in need of care. His mail heavier still, each link a weight against your weary arms. You work without pause, without thought beyond the task itself. The oil darkens your fingers, the grime sinks beneath cracked nails. Around you, the camp stirs in muted rhythm. Low voices, the clink of pots, the rasp of blade on stone. No song tonight, no laughter, only the slow grind of duty beneath the smoke-thick sky. The stew is thin, near tasteless. You eat crouched by the brazier, spoon shaking in your grip. The bread is hard, the water colder still. You swallow it all, though your stomach twists with each mouthful. There is no rest yet. The gear must be checked again. Straps mended, buckles tightened, padding dried as best the damp will allow. You move through the motions, each one etched into muscle and bone. When at last you climb to the tent, thinner now, battered by wind and rain, the blanket offers little comfort. You lie beneath it in mail-stiffened limbs, the bruises blooming deeper with each breath. Sleep comes only in fits, broken by the sound of distant horns, the low murmur of restless men, and tomorrow the blade will be drawn again. The mail worn again, the horse saddled, the wheel turns, and you turn with it. The summons comes not with urgency, but with formality. A sealed missive, a new banner fetched from the chest. Words exchanged in the solar between Sir Alric and the steward, voices calm for once. The word filters down to you in the usual way, a command, brief and unadorned. We ride to the lists, be ready. A tournament, not war, not skirmish, though the bruises will be the same, perhaps worse. You know this already, though you've yet to stand near the rails yourself. The older squires speak of it often, of bright tents and banners, of laughter thick with wine, of splintered lances and shattered ribs beneath polished steel. A festival of bruises wrapped in silk and trumpets. You pack the gear with the same care as for any campaign. Mail scrubbed near to gleam, surcoat brushed free of stains as best the years allow. The warhorse groomed until its coat shines, its mane braided tight. The tournament saddle differs little from the one used in the field, save for the added weight of show. Polished leather, bright cloth, gilt fittings that hide worn seams beneath. A mask like the rest of the tourney. The road is smoother this time, the weather mild. Villagers passed along the way bear garlands, banners fluttering from windows. Children shout from the roadside, women gather at gates, laughter spilling into the morning air. The company rides lighter, fewer pack horses, fewer grim-faced men-at-arms. The purpose here is spectacle, not slaughter. The tawny field sprawls beyond the next town, a patchwork of tents and pavilions, bright pennants snapping in the breeze. Merchants hawk wares along the fringes. Ale flows already, though the sun stands barely past its rise. The scent of roasting meat mingles with the sharp tang of horses and sweat. You take it all in with wary eyes, leading Sir Alric's mount to the assigned space. The work does not lessen here. If anything, it multiplies. The armour must shine beneath the gaze of peers and strangers alike. The blade must gleam, though it may not be drawn save in the melee. The shield, a new one, freshly painted with Sir Alric's device, must bear no mark when first shown. You polish until your arms ache, fingers raw from cloth and grit. Then there is the pageantry. Sir Alric attends the opening feast, you do not. You wait beyond the great tent tending saddle and girths, fetching wine when called. The sounds of music and laughter drift outward, a blur against the cool night. When he returns, it is late. You help him from the mail, cloak heavy with spilled drink, his words slurred with wine and weariness. The wheel turns even here. Morning brings the lists. You rise before dawn, hands trembling from cold and too little sleep. The horse must be fed, the tack checked thrice. The mail donned with care, no buckle missed, no strap left loose. Sir Alric's face is sharp again. the revelry of night burned away beneath the weight of iron and duty. You lead him to the lists beneath banners bright as blood. The stands brim with faces, lords, ladies, merchants, peasants pressed together in eager watchfulness. Trumpets sound, names are called. The first matches begin. You watch from the rails, heart thudding with each crash of lance on shield. The sound is near deafening. Wood splintering, iron striking iron, the dull thud of bodies hitting earth. The crowd roars with each unseating, each blow struck. The field churns beneath hooves, a mire of trampled grass and shattered shafts. Sir Alric rides in the third round. You brace the shield upon his arm, check the girth once more, hand up the lance with steady grip. He nods once, visor lowering with a click. The horse surges forward, plume tossing. You follow to the rail, breath caught high. The impact is brutal, the lance shatters, Sir Alric swaying but unseated not. The return pass follows swift, his own strike catching square. The crowd erupts. You exhale at last, though your hands shake with the force of it. The day stretches long. The matches blend one to another, the bruises beneath Sir Alric's mail deepening with each bout. Between rounds you work quickly, replacing straps, wiping sweat from steel, adjusting fit and buckle. The squires move in constant rhythm, a dance of duty beneath the bright spectacle. By evening the melee begins, no lances now, only blade and shield in crowded ring. The blows fall heavy, unrestrained despite the pageantry. Sir Alric fights with grim precision, each strike a test of endurance. You watch from the edge, cloth and water at the ready. When at last the final horn sounds, he stands blooded but upright, blade dark with sweat and grime. You tend the armour deep into the night, each dent a story, each crack a mark of the day. The mail is heavier now, soaked through, the blade notched, edge dulled. You work by lantern light, fingers near numb, shoulders slumped with weariness. The feast that follows rings louder than the one before. You hear it as you labour, the laughter of those unbruised by the day's work. You eat what is left when the lords are sated, a heel of bread, a strip of cold meat. Sleep comes on a bed of straw in the corner of the tent, cloak drawn tight against the chill. And tomorrow, another day of lists, another round of shining steel and shattering wood. The bruises will fade, the dents be hammered smooth. The wheel turns, and you turn with it. The return to the manor is not triumphant. There is no parade of banners, no bright fanfare to greet the company, only the slow clop of hooves through muddied streets, the weary faces of those left behind, the steady rhythm of duty resuming its grind. The castle gates creak open beneath skies gone grey with the coming season. The wheel turns once more. For you, there is no respite. The armour must be unpacked, cleaned of the tourney's grime. The horses seen to, tack mended. The bruises fade slower now, the aches deeper, but the work does not wait. Nor does Sir Alric. His duties shift with the season, from blade to ledger, from saddle to hall. You learn quickly that the life of the manor holds its own burdens. The sword remains at your side, but its edge dulls beneath the weight of parchment and coin. The mornings begin not with drills, but with lists, tallies of grain and stock, of rents owed and tithes collected. You stand beside Sir Alric as he confers with the steward, with the reeve, with the priest whose thin smile hides sharp eyes. The ledgers sprawl across the high table, pages thick with cramped script, lines of figures that blur beneath tired gaze. You do not read them, not yet, but you learn to fetch the needed roll, to know which seal marks tithe from toll, which hand denotes the debts of lesser lords and freeholders alike. Tax season brings its own peculiar rhythm. The great hall transforms, benches set in rows, trestles laden not with food, but with scales and weights, with chests bound in iron. The peasants file in by village, heads bowed, faces lined with cold and toil. Their goods spill forth in rough sacks, grain measured by the steward's unyielding hand, fowl squawking in woven baskets, coins counted and set aside with slow, deliberate precision. You stand near the dais, sword at hip, gaze fixed forward. A show of presence, though none here mistake you for judge or lord. You watch the faces instead, wary, weary, resentful beneath the thin veneer of duty. The old woman with too little grain, the farmer whose cart broke on the road, the youth with eyes too sharp for his years. You learn to read them all, though you speak none of it aloud. Not all pass in silence. Disputes rise as they must. A missing tithe, a boundary crossed, a debt long unpaid. Sir Alric hears them with measured voice. The steward's whispers at his ear. You watch as fines are set, as terms are struck. The wheel of obligation grinding slow, inescapable. You see the way shoulders slump beneath its turn, the way hands clench unseen. Beyond the hall, life in the manor presses on. The fields lie fallow now, the harvest stored. The barns creak beneath their weight, guarded against theft and spoil. The mill turns slower with winter's bite. The blacksmith's forge glows faint beneath thickened air. You ride often with Sir Alric, to distant holdings, to tenant farms. The roads are poor, the weather worse, each journey a test of endurance more than arms. The peasants greet you with bows, with wary eyes. In the hall you stand beside Sir Alric as he hears their petitions. In the field you ride a pace behind as he inspects their labours. The words change with the place, but the pattern does not. Duty, debt. The wheel turns. Your own duties shift as well. No longer only blade and shield, but quill and seal. You learn the marks of measure, the weight of coin. You carry messages, witness agreements, stand guard over stores and tolls. The sword remains at your side, but its edge dulls beneath the weight of words. Evenings bring no less labour. The ledgers must be copied, the arms checked, the men-at-arms drilled against the threat that always lingers at the edge of thought. Bandits, rival lords, the slow hunger that breeds unrest. You train still, though the bruises fade slower, the breath shortens faster. The wheel does not slow for tired limbs, and yet, amid the grind, small victories. A nod from Sir Alric at a well-handled task. The steward's rare word of approval. The glance of a merchant held a moment longer in respect. You mark them, though you do not speak of it. The path ahead remains long. The manor settles into its winter rhythm, slower, heavier, bound by cold and stone. You move within it now with steadier step. The hall's less vast, the faces more familiar. Yet the burden grows with each day, of duty, of expectation, of the wheel's unceasing turn. And so you rise each morning, to ledger and blade alike. You stand in the hall, on the road, beneath the pale light of failing sun. You endure. Because you must. Because the wheel turns, and you turn with it. Winter settles over the manor thick as a second roof, dulling every sound, slowing every footstep. The stone walls sweat cold, the high windows rim with frost. The hearth burns near constantly, yet its warmth reaches only so far, a circle of comfort amid vast chill. You rise each morning not to war, nor hunt, nor tournament, but to the quieter burdens of household life. Sir Alric keeps to the solar more now, wrapped in a heavy fur-lined cloak, ink staining fingers near as often as blade. The ledgers grow thicker with winter's passing, accounts of stores dwindling, lists of debts delayed, contracts marked for spring. You stand near his chair, fetching seal and sand, parchment and wax as needed. The work is slow, repetitive, the scent of ink and smoke clinging to tunic and skin alike. The days fall into a pattern as cold as the stones themselves. Morning service in the chapel, the breath of gathered voices rising pale in the chill air. Bread and broth in the lesser hall, no feast this season, the store's too dear. Then to the solar, to the hall, to the endless lists of small decisions that shape the manor's breath and pulse. The household servants move through their own steady dance. The cook tending thin stews that stretch farther than they should, the scullions hauling buckets up and down slick stairs, the maids brushing tapestries that hold the damp no matter how. They try. You know them all now by face, if not always by name. They nod as you pass, wary but no longer unfamiliar. Your own duties shift with the season's weight. The armour is tended still, but with less urgency, polished now more for pride than need. The blade remains sharp, though its edge meets only whetstone, not flesh. You drill when weather allows, a half circle in the yard scraped bare of snow. But the sessions grow shorter, breath freezing hard in throat and lungs. The rest of the time, errands, inspections, small judgments carried in Sir Alric's name. You ride little, the road's near impassable. Instead, you walk the storerooms, counting sacks and casks, noting where the rats creep in despite the traps. You stand watch at the hall during disputes, hand on hilt though the sharpest threat is boredom. There is much of that in truth. Boredom that seeps deeper than the cold. The days crawl one into another, marked less by bells than by the endless sameness of task and need. You feel it in your bones, a restless ache that no drill nor duty quite eases. The wheel turns, but here it turns slow, grinding hours beneath its weight. The great hall lies quieter now, save on feast days. The benches bear fewer cloaks, the hearth more ash than flame by night's end. The lords and knights that once came and went now linger in their own keeps, snowbound and wary of the roads. The castle stands inwards upon itself, a heart beating slow and shallow. You take your meals in the lesser hall, broth, hard bread, the occasional joint of salted meat. The servants do the same, save when called to greater service. You speak little at table, the words spare and soft beneath the press of stone and cold. The faces around you wear the same pale fatigue, the same winter-bitten hands. In the evenings there are stories told, by the hearth, by the youngest pages, by the oldest men-at-arms whose joints crack louder than their words. You listen without listening, gaze drawn to the flames that dance hollow in the vast grate. The tales of summer campaigns and grand tournaments ring thin in this season. You know their truth too well now. The mud beneath the glory, the hunger beneath the feast. When at last you climb to the squire's chamber, the rushes beneath your boots crunch with frost. The blanket offers little warmth, though the ache in your limbs draws you beneath it all the same. Sleep comes in thin layers, peeled back by each crack of wind through shutter and beam. And so another day ends. Another step through winter's hold. No banners, no blood, only the slow, cold turn of life within stone walls. The wheel turns still, and you turn with it. The evenings come earlier now. The sun slips behind grey stone long before the bell for the last meal. The shadows stretch wider through the halls, cold settling thick as wool. The hearth in the great hall burns high, but its warmth reaches little beyond the first few benches. Still, when the summons sounds, you make your way there as always, boots scuffing softly against worn rushes, the weight of the day hanging dull across your shoulders. Tonight is a feast night, or so the steward claims. The cause matters little. Some saint's day, some distant victory, some pretext to stave off the creeping boredom of long winter weeks. The hall is dressed in garlands of evergreen, their scent sharp beneath the smoke. The banners hang limp overhead. The tables grown less from bounty than from age, their scars worn smooth beneath countless hands. You take your place near the side, not at the high table, of course, nor with the household knights, but among the squires and trusted men-at-arms. Your tunic is freshly brushed, the mail polished to dull gleam. The sword rests at your side, more ornament now than tool, but its weight is familiar, grounding. The meal begins, as they all do, with ritual, with murmur of prayer, with the first cup passed hand to hand. The wine is thin this season, the ale weaker still, but both flow freely enough to warm the breath. The bread is dense, the stew thick with root and bone. You eat without haste, the rhythm of spoon and crust as practised as any drill. The hunger here is not sharp, not desperate, simply a hollow that never quite fills. Around you, the hall hums with low conversation. The older knights speak of distant campaigns, of lords and ladies whose names drift beyond your grasp. The younger squires trade boasts beneath their breath, voices sharp with ale and ambition. The servants move through it all, silent, efficient, their faces lined with the same winter weariness that clings to the stones themselves. As the meal wanes, the stories begin. They always do. The fire draws them out, tongues looser with drink, memories brighter beneath the flicker of flame. Tales of battles half won and feasts half remembered, of hunts gone awry, of distant courts where gold and silk outshone steel. You listen with one ear, the words weaving through the smoke in loops and tangles. Sir Alric speaks little, as ever. His gaze drifts now and then to the hearth, to the shadows that gather in the rafters. His cup remains half full, the wine untouched. You watch as you have learned to do, for the signal to fetch another jug, for the glance that ends a conversation, for the unspoken rhythms of service and station. The hours stretch thin. The hall grows warmer with bodies and breath, the air thick with smoke and sweat. The laughter turns slower, the boasts softer, the stories looping back upon themselves. The youngest pages doze where they sit, heads nodding against cloaks drawn tight. The older knights lean heavy against the boards, voices slurred, eyes half-lidded. You feel it in your own limbs, the pull of weariness, the ache of another day spent beneath the wheel's slow turn. The bench grows harder beneath you, the cloak less warm. The fire dances still, but its light blurs at the edges of sight. The words drift past now, fragments of song, of memory, of dreams spun from wine and winter's hold. When at last the steward signals the end, a clap of hands, a word sharp enough to cut the haze, you rise with the others, movements slow and stiff. The hall empties in waves, feet dragging, voices low. You gather what must be gathered, Sir Alric's cloak, the cup left near forgotten, the stray piece of mail that should not have been worn this night but was. You follow at his heel as he departs, the corridor beyond colder still for the leaving of the fire. The climb to the chambers is slow, each step a weight against tired legs. Sir Alric bids no word of dismissal, none is needed. You see to his gear with numb fingers, cloak hung to dry, belt unbuckled with care. The rest waits for morning. The wheel can spare that much tonight. Your own bed welcomes in its usual fashion. Thin straw, colder blanket, the ache of bruises new and old settling deep. You lie beneath it all, the hum of the evening still flickering behind closed eyes. The voices, the fire, the slow turn of words and wine. Sleep comes as it always does, late, shallow, wrapped in the sound of stone and wind. And tomorrow, the hall will beckon again. Another meal, another round of stories, of service, of slow-turning days beneath winter's hand. The wheel turns, and you turn with it. It does not happen all at once. There is no single morning when you wake and know the weight of years in your bones. It creeps instead, slow as moss upon stone, steady as the wheel itself. You notice it first in the joints, the way your knees ache longer after a ride, the way your shoulders stiffen by the second bell, the way the cold lingers deeper, biting through mail and wool alike. Your reflection shifts in ways harder to ignore. The face beneath the helm grows leaner, the lines around eyes and mouth deeper etched. The hands that grip sword and quill alike bear the marks of both. Calloused, scarred, joints thickened by work and time. The hair, once thick and dark, now shot through with grey that no polish or oil will hide. Sir Alric has aged too, though he speaks of it less. His gait has grown slower, the left knee stiff from an old wound that flares in damp weather. He leans more often upon the chair's arm, pauses longer between words. The sword at his side rests heavier these days, drawn less for drill, more for presence. Your duties shift with the years. The drills in the yard become rarer, not for lack of will, but of wisdom. The body mends slower now, bruises lingering longer, breath running short sooner than it once did. You spar when called, but the blade sings less often in your grip. The younger squires move quicker, strike harder. You know the counters still, the forms and flows, but the flesh lags behind the mind. In place of blade and shield, new tasks rise. The ledgers fall more often beneath your gaze, Sir Alric trusting your hand now to tally and seal where once you only fetched and watched. You ride more for message than for war, to neighbouring lords, to distant courts, carrying the words that bind and barter beneath the surface of steel. The servants know you now by name, by face. Their bows are deeper, their words more careful. The younger pages glance your way with wide eyes, watching as you once watched. You speak to them as needed, measured words, sharp when they must be, softer when wisdom allows. You know too well the weight they bear, the cold they rise to each morning, the aches deepen with each season. The sword belt rides lower on hips grown narrower with time. The mail presses harder upon spine and shoulder. Mornings come slower, the first steps from bed marked by stiffness, the breath drawn deep before motion begins. The joints crack louder than before, the fingers fumble more with buckle and clasp. Yet the wheel turns, and you turn with it still. There is no knighthood, not yet, perhaps not ever. The world beyond the hall turns slow for such things. But your place here is marked now, carved into the stone of the manor as surely as any banner. The steward consults you where once he ordered. Sir Alric bids your counsel in matters of coin and court. The men-at-arms nod with respect when you pass. The younger knights measure themselves against your eye, seeking word or glance. The days wear on in their rhythm, service, counsel, the steady maintenance of place and duty. The blade remains sharp, though drawn less. The armour polished, though worn seldom. The voice steadier than the hand now, the gaze sharper than the strike. You feel the shift in it all, the slow pivot from squire to something else, something quieter, heavier. And yet, beneath the weight of years, of ache, of slower step, there is a steadiness. The path ahead holds no less of duty, no less of labour. But it holds the knowing of it now, the shape of the wheel beneath your feet, the measure of each day's turn. You wake each morning to the same stone walls, the same cold beneath the rushes. You dress with slower care, buckle belt and blade with fingers less sure but still steady. You take your place in hall and yard alike, gaze unflinching beneath the slow press of time. And tomorrow the sun will rise again. The hearth will burn. The blade will be tended, the words spoken, the wheel turned, and you, slower now, older now, as will turn with it. The word comes as it always does, not in sudden cries, not in blaring horns, but in quieter things, in the tightening of voices around the hearth, in the letters carried by riders flecked with mud and frost, in the way Sir Alric's gaze lingers longer over the map unrolled upon the solar table. War again, a new campaign, another wheel to turn. You hear it without surprise, though something in you shifts beneath the news. Once, years past, the prospect would have set your heart racing, blade already half drawn in restless hand. Now the weight of armour comes first to mind, the bruises that bloom slower to fade, the cold of nights beneath battered canvas, the long grinding road ahead, with no promise but its own endlessness. Preparations begin. The list are read, men-at-arms summoned, horses pulled from their winter feed to be shod and readied, the stalls checked, the armoury emptied of what gear can still be trusted. You move among it all with practised steps, calling orders where once you only followed them. The younger squires look to you for pattern, for measure. You give it with voice calm, with gaze steady. Inside, an old ache stirs deep and dull. The blade you draw from the rack bears familiar wear. You test its edge, whetstone drawn with careful stroke. The mail is heavier now than you remember, or perhaps you've changed, and the mail only reveals it. The surcoat hangs looser across shoulders, grown narrower with years. You polish it still. Duty does not wane with age. Sir Alric's voice is measured as he speaks of the campaign. The cause matters little. Some border dispute flared anew, some lord's pride outstripping his purse. You listen, noting the names, the dates, the routes. You do not ask questions. The wheel turns, and so you ride. The muster is smaller than campaigns past. Fewer banners raised, fewer hands drawn to blade and bow. The realm tires of war, though it does not say so aloud. The young knights speak with bright voices, eager still. The older ones measure their words, their glances heavier with knowing. You stand among them now, the weight of years marked plain. The road is as it ever was, long, uneven, biting cold through cloak and mail. The horses move slow with winter's lean. The men grumble more openly, the laughter fewer between the miles. You ride near the front, eyes scanning paths well known, muscles stiff with remembered ache. The days stretch grey and silent, each dawn colder than the last. When the field is reached, there is no rousing cheer, no bright clash of new-forged arms, only the slow rhythm of camp raised, of pikes set, of scouts sent forth beneath skies the colour of old iron. You move through it all, tents set with weary precision, men-at-arms drilled with voice rough from cold. The battle comes in its own time, as battles do. You stand ready, blade sharp, shield set, breath drawn deep against the weight of armour. The charge feels slower now, each step of the horse resonant through joints that protest with each jolt. The clash is as brutal as ever, steel on steel, the air thick with shouts and smoke. Yet within it something different. Not fear, that is long mastered, not eagerness, that is long faded. A steadiness. A grim, a bone-deep endurance that carries you through the chaos. You strike where needed, guard where required, retreat and advance with the wheel's turning rhythm. The bruises bloom deeper now, the aches sink to marrow. The arm stiffens faster, the breath runs shorter. Yet you stand, blade in hand, as the field clears, as the banners rise or fall. You tend your gear with trembling fingers, the polish duller beneath the weight of grime and blood. The younger knights speak in bright voices again when camp returns to uneasy quiet. You watch them with gaze neither mocking nor fond. You remember, and you know. The wheel turns, their time will come, their steps will slow in turn. You ride from the field beneath skies no brighter, the road stretching long once more. The manor waits, cold stone, slow duties, the grind of seasons. You do not dread it. The blade will be hung, the mail set aside, the wheel turns, and you turn with it still, slower, heavier, but unbroken. It begins, as so many things do, with noise, not the clash of blade on shield, nor the thunder of hooves across churned earth. A different noise, lower, heavier, rolling through air and bone alike. You first hear it from the wall, watching the distant ridge where banners once rose in familiar array. Now, a haze of smoke, the sharp crack of sound that lingers long after the first report fades. Muskets, they say. Arquebuses, bombards and culverins. Words that drift through the hall with growing weight, through the yard with sharper edge than any blade. The young pages whisper of them with wide eyes. The older knights speak of them in low voices, glances heavy with what is not said. You listen, as you always have. You learn, as you always must. The first time you see one, it is smaller than expected. A clumsy thing of wood and iron, heavier than it looks, the barrel blackened by use. The smoke stings worse than any forge, the stench of powder biting deep into throat and lung. You watch the demonstration with arms crossed, face unreadable. The captain speaks of range, of penetration, of volleys that break even the strongest line. You watch the target, a breastplate not unlike your own, hold neat as if by auger. You return to the armoury in silence that day. The mail hangs heavier than ever upon its rack. The blade gleams beneath careful polish, but its edge seems dulled in ways whetstone cannot mend. You tend them still, for duty, for habit, for the wheel's slow grind. But something within the rhythm shifts. Sir Alric says little, but his gaze lingers longer upon the maps now, the reports that speak not of knights and lances, but of powder and shot. The orders change, more archers called, fewer men-at-arms in full plate. The smith works now not only on harness and spur, but on strange squat barrels, on moulds and shot and flasks of fine black dust. You drill still, but the yard sounds different. No clash of blade upon blade, no ring of steel against steel. The crack of powder echoes now, the sharp bark of command timed to volleys, not charges. The younger squires learn both, pike and musket alike. You watch their stances, their uncertain grips, and feel the weight of years deepen. On the field, the change is starker still. The bright ranks of cavalry ride less often now. The ground is broken with trenches, the air thick with smoke. The cannon speak with voices deeper than any horn, shattering stone and will alike. You ride not to charge, but to hold ground, to guard the guns, to rally where the line wavers beneath fire unseen. The armour grows thinner, lighter, more for show than shield. The sword at your side feels heavier each day, drawn less often, raised with slower arm. You wear it still, for pride, for place. But you know, the wheel turns. In the hall the talk is of powder, of trade in saltpetre and sulphur, of smiths who craft locks and barrels with greater art than any sword. The old songs sound thinner now, their tales of knightly charge and honour dulled beneath the weight of smoke and lead. The younger knights speak of formations, of drill and volley, their eyes bright with the new. You watch them and say little. There is no bitterness in it, not truly, only the slow, cold knowing of a place passing beneath the wheel's turn. You do not fight it, you do not flee it, you endure as you always have. The days move slower now. The sword still finds use, in hall, in ceremony, in the rare skirmish where steel still meets steel. But the heart of war has shifted. You stand beneath banners older than most who ride now, a living relic amid new rhythm. They nod to you with respect, with deference, with the faint pity of those who do not yet know the wheel will turn for them as well. You wake each morning to the same stone, the same cold breath beneath rush-strewn floor. You dress slower, walk steadier. The mail is worn less often, the blade is drawn less swiftly, but you rise, you serve, you endure, and tomorrow the muskets will crack again, the cannon will speak, the wheel will turn beneath smoke and shot, and you, slower now, older now, but unbroken, will turn with it still. The sword hangs now more often than it's worn. The mail lies folded beneath oiled cloth, its weight untouched for weeks at a time. The days pass slower within the stone walls, the rhythm of war and ride replaced by the quieter grind of scroll and seal. You rise each morning not to the clash of arms, but to the scratch of quill, to the soft murmur of clerks in the solar, to the steady, endless tide of parchment. It was Sir Alric who suggested it first, the writing. A passing word offered one cold morning as he gazed over the empty yard. "You've seen much," he said, voice low beneath the weight of years. "It should not pass unmarked." You nodded, as one does to such things, yet the thought lingered. The first letter is to an old comrade long since retired to lands further south. The words come haltingly at first, the hand unused to such labour, the mind slow to shape memory into ink. But the rhythm returns, as all things do. You write of the field, of faces known and lost, of the wheel's slow turn beneath mail and blade. The next is not a letter, but a record, at the steward's behest. The campaigns catalogued, the banners served, the battles fought and survived. You write long into the evenings, the flicker of the lamp casting shadows sharp across the page. The quill scratches steady, though the hand stiffens with cold and ache. The ink stains deeper than sweat once did. Soon the habit forms. Each morning brings new parchment, new words, not all for record, some for memory alone. The younger squires watch with curious eyes, uncertain of this new labour. You say little. There are things one must see to understand, and things one must write to remember. The memories rise unbidden now. The long marches beneath pale sky, the thunder of hooves across broken field, the slow, grim labour of blade and shield. You write of it all, the glory thin as smoke, the weariness deep as stone, of comrades fallen, of roads long ridden, of nights spent beneath stars unseen through smoke. The letters grow in number, stacked neat beside the desk. Some are sent, others sealed and stored. The steward remarks upon them with a thin smile. A squire's chronicle, he says, or a knight's, in truth, though the title was never given. You answer only with a nod. The wheel's measure lies not in title, but in turn. The act of writing shapes the days now. The morning prayers, the simple meal of bread and broth, the slow walk to the solar where ink and parchment await. The hours pass in steady rhythm, the quill moving, the mind drifting through paths long trod. The body tires faster now, the hand cramping often, the breath thinner with each season's turn. Yet the work continues. Evenings bring the hall quieter than in years past. The benches hold fewer now, old faces gone, new ones untested. The stories told ring familiar, worn smooth by countless tellings. You listen with a smile thin and knowing, the weight of memory heavier than any cup. The fire warms less now, its light softer upon faces lined with time. The younger knights seek your words more often now, counsel asked in quiet moments, beyond the reach of boast and blade. You give it when needed, spare and measured. The wheel turns for them as it did for you. They will learn, as you did. The blade remains sharp, though its edge meets only cloth and air. The mail remains tended, though it rests more often than worn. The horse stands still in the stable, its coat greyed with age. You visit often, hand upon muzzle, breath shared in the quiet. Some companions need no words, and the writing continues. Page upon page, ink upon ink, a life traced in strokes of black upon pale. Not for fame, nor for song, but for truth, for memory, for the knowing that when the wheel turns once more, something of it may remain. You wake each morning beneath the same stone, the same cold breath beneath thin blanket. The joints stiffen slower to loosen, the steps shorter to steady. But the quill waits, the page waits, and the wheel waits. You rise, you write, you endure. And tomorrow, more words will come, more memory will find form. The wheel turns, and you turn with it still. It is not spoken aloud, but it is felt. The shift, the turn of the wheel. You see it in the yard first, the faces newer, smoother, eyes bright with a hunger you remember far too well. The older knights ride less often now. The halls echo thinner on feast nights. The places at table shift subtly with each passing season. The steward comes to you one cold morning, voice dry as always. A page newly come, he says. He'll be placed under your watch. No ceremony, no title, simply fact. You incline your head, as one must. You have served. Now you teach. The boy arrives before the bell, thin, pale beneath too large tunic, eyes wide as the yard itself. You remember that look. The way the stones seem taller than towers, the sword racks a forest of iron, the great hearth a distant sun. He bows awkwardly. You nod in return, voice measured. Come, there is work. And so it begins. You show him the rhythms first. The unspoken beats of life within stone walls. How the hall must be swept before the bell. How the hearth is tended, the rush is changed. How the cup is held when serving. The bow measured to each place. He watches, learns with stiff limbs and clumsy grace. You correct sparingly, a hand to shoulder, a word low and even. The others watch as well, some with knowing smirks, others with quiet nods. They see the wheel turning too. In the yard the drills unfold as they always have. Blade and stance, guard and cut. You stand at the boy's side, correcting grip, adjusting foot. The sword trembles in his small hands. You remember the weight of it, the bite of first blisters, the sharp ache of arms grown too weary to lift. You speak little of that. He will learn. The wheel teaches well. The younger knights gather in the yard, their voices brighter, movements faster. You watch them with a gaze neither sharp nor soft, measuring, marking. They ride with skill, drill with zeal, their blades singing bright in the cold air. Yet their eyes stray often to you, seeking approval unspoken. You give it sparingly. The wheel turns for them too. In the hall they sit nearer the high table now. Their tales ring with familiar bravado, battles fought, foes bested, banners taken. You listen with quiet patience, the weight of your own memories heavy as mail upon the heart. When asked, you speak, of strategy, of counsel, of the blade's true burden. They listen more than they show. You see it in the questions that follow, in the glances cast your way when they think you do not see. The boy grows beneath your watch, taller, steadier, the grip firmer, the gaze less fearful. He learns the rhythm of the hall, the weight of blade and duty alike. You guide him as you were once guided, with patience, with firmness, with the knowing that the wheel grants in its turn. Seasons pass. The yard fills with new faces again, the older knights fewer, their places taken by those once younger than yourself. The steward consults you more often now, Sir Alric's voice slower, his steps heavier. You stand at his side still, though the sword is drawn less often, the counsel given more. There is a moment, quiet beneath the pale dawn, when you watch the boy, now near grown, spar with a younger squire. His blade moves with purpose, his stance steady, his breath measured. You see yourself there, not in mirror, but in echo. The wheel turns, you nod once, unseen. He will endure. And so the days unfold. You teach, you watch, you serve. The blade rests more often upon its rack. The quill lies heavier in hand. The halls sound thinner with voices new and old. Yet the rhythm remains, the page rising before dawn, the squire drilling beneath grey sky, the knight riding beneath banners worn but proud. The wheel turns, and you, slower now, older now, but still unbroken, turn with it still. It comes as quietly as the rest of it. No grand moment, no horn nor banner, just the slow shifting of the wheel. The years behind you heavier now than the sword at your side. The rooms in the manor more familiar than the road beyond the gate. The mornings marked less by drills and more by softer sounds. Voices in the chamber, the slow creak of shutters drawn against dawn. The marriage was arranged as such things are. A name spoken, a dowry measured, a hand extended with duty wrapped in silk and parchment. You knew her in passing first, a glance across hall, a nod at feast. The words between you slow to come, the steps beside one another slower still. Yet in time, as with all things beneath the wheel, a rhythm forms, a place found. The chambers shift to match, the old cot replaced by a broader bed, the tapestries hung newer, though the chill in the stone remains. The hearth burns more often now, not for warmth alone, but for presence. The soft murmur of voice across the table, the steady tread of feet beside yours in the hall. Children come as they do, with worry, with hope, with the sharp edge of fear dulled only by the weight of days past. The first cries echo louder in memory than they did in the hall. The sleepless nights colder than any campaign. You learn new rhythms again, how to rock, how to soothe, how to pace worn paths across cold stone beneath flickering lamplight. The sword hangs still, though now beneath softer cloth. The mail folded deep within the chest. The quill takes its place more often. Letters to distant kin, records of tithe and field, words meant to anchor the shifting days. The hall fills with different sounds, laughter bright and high, the scatter of small feet, the sharp bark of a hound beneath table. The dog was a gift from Sir Alric himself, old now and knowing, a beast broad of shoulder, slow of step, its greying muzzle more kin to your own than not. It follows you through the halls, through yard and field alike, breath huffing in steady rhythm. You speak to it more often than you once did to any squire, words soft, unheard beyond its tilted ear. The days pass in familiar patterns, the elder child now at lessons, the younger still beneath your arm. The mornings spent in hall, the afternoons upon the walk or in the yard, watching the young knights drill with blades bright and eager. The aches grow deeper now, joints stiff with each rising, the breath drawn heavier with each climb of stair. Yet the steps are taken still. The wheel turns. The evenings find you beneath the hearth's glow, a cup in hand, the dog at your feet, the soft murmur of family around you. The tales told now of years past, the names of comrades spoken softer, the weight of memory heavier than blade. You speak less of war, more of land and crop, of trade and harvest, of the simple turns of life that grind steady beneath the wheel. Sleep comes sooner now, though thinner. The aches wake you often, the cold in the bones harder to shake. Yet beneath it, a steadiness remains, the knowing of place, of role, of the slow, unending turn of days well worn. You rise each morning not to the horn of battle, but to the soft call of child, to the warmth of hearth, to the steady breath of dog and kin alike. The blade remains sharp, though drawn rarely. The mail remains tended, though worn not. The voice remains measured, though softer now beneath the weight of years. And tomorrow the child will learn a new word. The dog will follow a familiar path. The hearth will burn once more. The wheel turns. And you, older now, slower now, but still unbroken, will turn with it still. It is the quiet you notice first. The way the halls echo longer beneath each step, the way voices fall softer in your passing, the way the wheel turns now beneath fewer feet. The castle remains, of course. Stone does not wither so swiftly. The banners hang still, though their colours fade with each passing season. The hearth burns still, though the flame gutters lower, banked against the creeping chill. The faces have changed. The eldest knights gone to earth or to prayer, their places filled with sons and grandsons whose eyes shine too bright to see the years ahead. You rise later now. The steward no longer calls you to morning council. The blade remains hung upon the wall, the mail folded deep beneath linen and cedar. You walk the halls with slower step, cane in hand more often than not. The dog, an old companion now near as grey as yourself, paces beside, its breath laboured but loyal still. The chamber has shifted once more, the great bed no longer cold with absence. The children groan, their voices now the ones heard in the hall, their own children scattering laughter through the upper rooms. You watch them with a smile drawn deep across worn features, the lines of life etched plain. Meals are quieter too, a place set always, though your appetite fades with the years. The bread thinner, the broth lighter, the cup raised more for ritual than thirst. Yet the warmth of the hearth holds steady, the murmur of kin weaving comfort beneath the weight of days. Letters arrive still, from distant lords, from old comrades slower of hand but steady of word. You read them beneath the lamplight, eyes straining against the dance of ink and parchment. Some you answer, some you fold with care, bound in ribbon worn smooth by thumb and thought alike. The yard lies still beneath frost now. The drills continue beneath younger eyes, blades bright beneath winter sun. You watch from the wall walk, breath misting against the cold stone. The arm aches with each grip of cane, the legs tremble with each stare, but the gaze remains sharp, the mind steady beneath the turn of seasons. Nights are longer now, sleep thin, broken by the ache of old wounds, the chill that seeps beyond even the thickest furs. You sit often by the hearth instead, the dog curled close, the crackle of flame the only sound beneath the stone's slow breath. The past stirs unbidden in such hours, faces long gone, roads long ridden, fields long stained and overgrown. You do not fear them. They are companions now, as present as the walls themselves. and when sleep does come, it brings no dreams, only a deep, still quiet beneath the weight of years. The castle slows with the wheel's turn. The younger knights lead now, their voices ringing through the hall. The steward's son carries the ledgers. The new pages glance your way with eyes bright and unknowing. You smile beneath the weight of their gaze. They will learn. The wheel turns for all. Your steps grow fewer with each season. The wall walk left for younger legs, the yard for younger arms, the hall for younger voices. You remain, in chamber, in hearthside seat, in the quiet rhythm of the castle's breath. There is no fear in it, no bitterness, only the knowing that the wheel turns as it must, as it always has. You have served, you have taught, you have endured. The stone holds your steps, the banner's your shadow, the blade your name. And when the final night comes, as it will, it comes gently. No horn, no cry, no sudden cold. Only the slow dimming of flame, the soft breath of the dog beside, the faint murmur of voices distant through stone. You sit beneath the weight of cloak and memory, gaze upon the hearth's last glow, breath slow and steady. And as the wheel turns once more, you, older now, slower now, but unbroken, turn with it still.